the 2020 presidential campaign enters its final days, I thought we could take stock of the impact that COVID-19 has had on U.S. democratic institutions. And I wanted to specifically ask you to comment on sort of three broad issues. One, how robust are American democratic institutions in the face of multiple cascading crises in an election year? Two, what is the role of Congress and the states in constraining a president? And then lastly, I would love to hear your thoughts on the sorts of policy and governance changes that we can expect after November 3rd.
Many of the problems we have confronted, many of the breakdowns have actually been breakdowns from inaction, not from action. And one way to think about Trump's authoritarianism or his performative authoritarianism is it's actually been most effective in stopping government from doing things that it would normally do. It doesn't mean he doesn't say things that run against democratic practice or even sometimes try to do things, such as trying to use the military for a short while against protesters until the military resisted, then using goons from Homeland Security and from prisons who were sent by the Justice Department. It's extraordinary. But in fact, they had a very minimal effect because our system is so decentralized between the federal government and the states and local government as well. And it is actually very difficult for a single figure to make a lot of things happen. Where our system has faced its biggest crisis is where things have shut down, where action that needs to be taken has not been taken. And we are seeing that with the COVID crisis.
You know, Linz will tell you something like authoritarians undermine the legitimacy of their opponents. They try to suppress opposition. They will base their appeals on emotion, on a sort of like cult of personality. They'll blame others for their ills. They'll try to extend their own power and undermine the rule of law, including elections. And so if you run through a quick list of what Trump has done, the misdeeds of the president, attacking his opponents, attacking the press. There was a tweet this morning about the quote unquote lamestream media, calling for people to be locked up, supporting and encouraging wild goose chase investigations, corruption, limited transparency, anti-immigration, anti-Muslim, anti-refugee policy and rhetoric, pro-conspiracy theory, anti-truth, attacks on electoral integrity and legitimacy from postal ballots to, the election must be counted, the ballots must be counted tonight, ridiculous claims of voter fraud. And even, sort of potentially the encouraging of violence. And I think that is a sort of red line that a lot of people are paying close attention to, because it seems to be in part what will separate Trump's style of authoritarianism from fascism in a lot of ways. And I think if you're watching the trends, they're deeply disconcerting. From, the plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan, the Charlottesville both sides, the anti-lockdown vigilantes who were mobilized in part by Trump. He's now collecting a group of citizens to monitor the elections. This is the sort of Trump army. You see people with weapons at polling stations. The crackdown on Black Lives Matter protests and the sort of police state tactics in Oregon. And so when you add all of that up, I think it's very clear that it's an authoritarian style of governing.
We do go through these cycles of a populist anger in our society, and then consensus building. And so I think what matters are two things. One, what this election looks like, if there is a decisive win for Biden and Democrats, and this is not just at the presidential level, in the Senate, within states, that's really significant. And second, whether the new set of elected leaders are able to institute structural reforms that address the concerns many enablers of Trump and this populism have had, concerns about inequality, concerns about opportunity, concerns about fairness, and also whether they build a coalition. And it's not that we're going to go into a coalition government as the Germans are accustomed to, and that doesn't mean you should find a stale center, but it does mean bringing along some people who might be more moderate in certain ways, or at least are able to be part of a coalition. Healthcare is a great example of this.